Hey, Peter Rork here. Thank you for joining us. I want to thank everybody who signed on to the Facebook webinar for Tales from the Cockpit. We have Cecilia down here. This is like the Brady Bunch commercial I've got. I don't know where your images are on your screen, but she's down here and Kara is right over here. And I just lost everybody's screen. So in any event, I want to thank you all. Happy holidays and Thanksgiving to you. I'm up at my lake house in Montana where it's starting to rain and a little snow right now, and back in Jackson this coming weekend where Kara and I are going to set up the flight schedule for next year. We have a very ambitious schedule of over 70 rescue flights that we're planning on doing. This past year, as you know, I did all the flying myself until this year, and then I was able to bring on 3 volunteer pilots to help me. Sadly, it was a little too much for one of the pilots and he dropped out. I still have Jeff Carter and Brent Blue. All of you who live in Jackson know Dr. Blue from Emergent Care. So that's where we are now. I'm planning on adding at least another 2 and maybe 3 additional pilots for next year. Understand that when we do these rescue flights, you know, we have a long distance to fly down to the origin, usually 6 or 8 hours or more. We spend the night, and then the next day we're spending about 10 or 12 hours in the cockpit, transporting the animals to different stops and then going on to our next source partner. So we don't want to overtax the pilots, even though it's volunteer, it still can be very tiresome sitting in that airplane. And I've mentioned dog farts in the past, and of course that's always a present part of what we do. But that's where we are. That's what we're planning. As you see from our numbers, we're close to 17,000 animals that we've flown to their forever home, and that we get our animals, source them from the facilities that have a limited life-saving program, and we offer them the alternative of facilities that will aim for a 100% adoption rate. So Kara, what do you have? Now Kara's down here, and so Kara, do you have anything to add to this before we open this up?
Yeah, no, I just want to thank everybody for joining today. We're really excited to announce a new partnership we have with a wonderful Austin-based company called Wondercide, and we've got Cecilie here, who's part of that team that will be joining in the conversation, and we're excited to talk about our life-saving rescue flights, and we're hoping to open this up to any questions any of our viewers may have. So feel free to type those in the chat, the question and answer chat box, and we'll do our best to answer those throughout our conversation today. We'll aim to have about a 30-minute conversation with everybody today. So yeah, Cecilie, if you'd like to kick it off, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kara. As she mentioned, my name is Cecilie. I am from Wondercide. We are an Austin-based company, and we specialize in making plant-based products for your pets and home. So Wondercide comes from the word pesticide, and how that all started was our CEO had a dog, Luna, that had really bad side effects from, common pesticides used in yards, common flea and tick meds. So after that whole ordeal, she decided to take it upon herself to come up with these products with flea and tick spray, insect repellent, sprays for your yard. So I'm really happy to be here to talk with you guys. Just for me personally too, I would love to learn more about Dog Is My CoPilot. We're so excited to be partnering with you guys, and we've got a really exciting partnership that we have going on with our sample boxes. Just to give in a quick plug here, you guys, we offer sample boxes in all of our scents for our flea and tick spray, our insect repellent, and our indoor pest control products. So our 4 scents are rosemary, lemongrass, peppermint, and cedarwood. And so these boxes that you can see in the images here, we've got some really great info about Dog Is My CoPilot, so people can learn about why it is important for us to be supporting organizations like this. And what's really exciting is we are donating proceeds from these boxes from now until 12/31. So coming up with the holiday season. It's a perfect gift that gives back. We'll be donating those proceeds to go towards the first flight of 2021. So we're super excited because it gives us the option to save up to 250 pets. And you guys mentioned you're close to 17,000 that you've already done. So that's super impressive. And we're all for that, especially coming from Austin, which is a no-kill shelter city there. And we've paired a lot with some shelters there as well. So this is like very near and dear to our hearts. And we're just really excited to continue this partnership and conversation with you guys.
Yeah, thank you. I want to throw that out because what a lot of people don't know is that we do a scrub down on the aircraft after every rescue flight. And we used to use a solution that was provided by the veterinarians. I forget what it's called, but it's a hydrogen peroxide base. And so we recently added the Wondercide company, and I was joking with Kara down here that about the alliteration that plant-based product protect people and pets from pests. You know, a lot of P's in there. So I think it's their new marketing phrase. So in any event, we started using Wondercide, and I use the lemongrass. I mean, I just and I know that sounds shameless, but it's actually the truth. And they are going to help us stay wheels up in saving the animals. So, you know, they have a sample box. I'd encourage you to get one. I don't know where we are in the process, but we offered to throw in the automobile magnets that we have with Dog Is My CoPilot for the first 250 boxes. We actually, we received a lot of nationwide exposure this past year, beginning with CBS Sunday Morning, and with the thank you notes, I sent them all out, and we've run out, and right now we're kind of on back order for those things, but we hope to have those in the first 250 purchases of the Wondercide sample box. So stay tuned for that. So, Kara, do you have anything to add? No, okay. She's muted right now.
Oh, you're muted, Kara.
Sorry. I like to mute myself during a conversation just so we don't hear a lot of background. But yeah, no, Cecilie, I think you had some questions that you wanted to specifically ask. So we're happy to start with that and see if we can kind of cover some ground.
Yeah, totally. So for people who are tuning in who may not know a lot about Dog Is My CoPilot in specific details, especially if you're part of the Wondercide audience, hi, everyone. Peter, I'd love to know just a little bit about, you know, how Dog Is My CoPilot came about, when this happened, you know, how did you come up with the idea, and, you know, where do you see it going from here?
Well, the idea has been out there for a while for animal transport. There is an organization called Pilots and Paws, and the pilot can sign up on the website. They'll match an animal that needs to be transported from A to B. And for the low-time pilots or the recreational pilots, it gives them a chance to use the aircraft or go out and rent an aircraft and deliver one animal and change that animal's world. And when I was practicing orthopedics, didn't have a lot of spare time, but I thought that would be a way to give some usefulness to my resources and skills as a pilot and having my own aircraft. And I did a couple of flights with Pilots and Paws, and I rapidly became very disillusioned with them because on one flight, I was transporting a couple dogs that were going to be used for breeding. And the other one, I remember flying probably 5 or 6 hours, delivering a dog from Jackson over to Burns, Oregon. One dog, 6 hours, a lot of resources. And so when I knew that it was an incredibly inefficient way of addressing the problem, but really, at that point, I didn't even know what the problem was. I just thought, you know, Pilots and Paws, airplane, you know, whatever. So after I left medicine in 2012, and it kind of came out of a personal tragedy where my wife passed on, and we had a mutual friend and called me. I had been home grieving for months, just, you know, sitting in a dark room, basically. And she said, get out there, go do something, you know, Meg would want you to be happy. And, You wonder, and I don't mean to wax philosophic at this point, but if you find yourself in a good place where I find myself now, then all the bad things that ever happened to you leading up to this point were part of the process of getting you there. And so you have to recognize that they were all a good thing, really, even if it was very hurtful at the time. So I started a nonprofit. I hired an attorney, Judy Zimmett. She got the 501c3 for me, and started with the model of Pilots and Paws. And then the Animal Adoption Center in Jackson asked if I wouldn't mind on a monthly basis flying animals from San Francisco to Jackson, because they were having a housing problem there with their dogs. And I thought, well, sure, this is great. I love San Francisco. Get to fly my airplane, saves some dogs at the time. And we were only talking about 4 or 6 dogs on each flight at a time. But, that seemed like enough to me. And, maybe I'd work on my golf game or go travel or whatever. So I went to San Francisco and I met Marty Watts, who runs the San Francisco SPCA. And she put on this beautiful luncheon for us. And halfway through the luncheon, she goes like this and says, can I have a private moment with you? I said, sure. And she said, these people in Jackson don't need your help. Let me introduce you to somebody who really does. And I said, sure, I'd love to meet her. And so the next day, we flew down to the Central Valley of California, Merced, which if any of you are familiar with it, it's a really challenged location. And they were in desperate shape. Yeah, it was very difficult for the dogs to be adopted, and their rate of euthanasia, and I promised Kara over here that I wouldn't use that phrase, so I apologize.
No, that's
But
okay.
it was over 90%. And they would put 20, 25 dogs in a van and drive them to Seattle, drive them to Salt Lake City, Denver, Missoula, Boise, anywhere to get them out. And Sharon Lohman was running New Beginnings, and she would pull the animals out of the facility, put them in foster homes, put them on the road and get them out. And she walked me through the facility, and I was like, my jaw just dropped. And I thought, this is it. This is what I have to do. And so I went back flew back home. I was flying a small airplane at the time. Well, it's a large single, a Cessna Stationair 206, 6 passengers. Pulled all the seats out, and I started flying for Sharon. We could put in 20 or 30 crates, and instead of her 16-hour flights, I could do them in 4.5. And so I flew 1,000 animals a year for her. And then, of course, the word started getting out. And the attorney who helped me start the nonprofit had stayed on as executive director. She got too busy with her practice. And so I approached Kara, and she fortunately agreed to take over the reins of Dog Is My CoPilot. And we knew we were being overrun, and Kara and I are, we like all kinds of animals, small dogs, big dogs, but mostly big dogs. And so, but we couldn't carry big dogs because there wasn't room in the small aircraft. So I knew I had to get a larger airplane, and I knew the aircraft we had to get was a Cessna Caravan, because it's built for hauling things over basically short haul. FedEx uses them for the short haul flights, and it was the perfect equipment for this. I also knew that Dog Is My CoPilot couldn't afford it, and so I enlisted the help of a broker who helped me find an airplane. It was an aircraft that was from a mining company up in Canada, and they were shutting down their flight department. Had too many hours on it, and it was all beat up from flying in and out of unimproved strips. So I flew up there with the guy. We looked through the logbook, and it was meticulously maintained. Everything was mechanically, it was perfect. But to look at the airplane, it was such an eyesore. I mean, the interior of the aircraft looked like a 1967 Oldsmobile with the, ceiling ripping down and everything. It was awful. And I thought, perfect. This is the perfect airplane. It was the perfect price. We still couldn't afford it. I went out and I mortgaged my house, loaned the money to Dog Is My CoPilot. Kara and I had no idea how are we ever going to pay this loan back. But we had faith. We had faith that it would happen, and we just stayed on the path. We just stayed on the path, and then suddenly our numbers went from 1,000 a year to 3,000 a year, and now the receiving groups who they're like this, they're talking to each other and say, there's this group that doesn't charge for hauling animals, and they'll take them from 1,000 miles away. Let's contact our friends down in Texas and southern New Mexico and southern Arizona and Central California. Maybe he'll fly for us. And that's where we are today. We have a spider web of flight paths that we take. And some days I was on the road for 3 or 4 days in a row. I got a little burned out, to be honest with you. And we got a grant from the Petco Foundation last year. Thank you, Petco. It allowed us to go out and train the 3 additional pilots, 2 left. And we increased our flights from last year from 30 up to 45 this year, and now we're going up to 70. So that's how we are. We're scaling up, and we didn't start with that goal. We just, we're just hanging on to the tail of the tiger here, and we're just following it wherever it takes us. And we recently started exploring plans with obtaining a second aircraft with a group that wants it based in Atlanta, Georgia. So we can now start flying on the East Coast. And so we may double and triple our numbers, who knows? But right now, we're serving 12 or 13 Western states. We have the same sending and receiving partners. They work together really well. All they're waiting for is, when are we going to be there with the airplane? And that's what Kara and I do in setting the schedule. Then I have the easy part. I fly the airplane down, pick up the dogs, fly them to their destination. Now Kara has to work with all the groups in all the locations, because remember when I was flying only for Sharon Wellman, I was flying 20 dogs. I'd put 20 dogs in the plane, fly them from Merced up to Missoula, take the crates out of the airplane and go home. Now we've had up to 250 animals on a flight, and nobody can take that many animals. Now Kara is going, who can take these animals, and how many stops do we have to make? And I kid Kara all the time about being geographically challenged, and because she'll occasionally say, "Oh yeah, on your way back from Laredo, would you mind stopping in Pittsburgh or maybe Chicago and picking the dogs and finding Minneapolis?" I'm going, "Kara, you're killing me." No, she's not that bad.
That bad, but
she's not that bad. But she just can't say no to these people. So we find ourselves making 3 or 4 or 5 stops in a single day.
Wow.
And then going on to our next source. So we try to string these flights together. Now that's a lot of people to coordinate, getting them there on time, making sure that everybody is on the same page. And that's Kara's job. And so, I fly 500 hours a year, which with all the flight planning and everything is probably 2,000 hours a year, which is like a full-time job. And Kara is doing at least that. And, I kind of feel bad about what we pay her, because it's embarrassing. It's awful, but we don't tell anybody, okay? So, so that's where you are. That's how it started. It started at a tragedy, and now it's something really great. I am so flattered to be part of this. We got a lot of attention from Connor Knighton, who did the piece on CBS Sunday Morning, did a wonderful piece for us. Then we were on NBC News, and we were on Fox News, the Hallmark Channel, and we got a lot of, now the smaller donations are coming in, which is great. We got a lot of people who will make donations over and over again.
Right.
What was interesting to me and to Kara is that how much hate mail we got. I mean, and I was shocked. I mean, I thought, I think, gee, I mean, what does the guy have to do here? And so we had a phone conference with the Petco Foundation. They said, we get hate mail all the time. If we give any kind of monetary support to any kind of shelter that uses, animal control populations, wink, wink, you know what I'm talking about. They think we're supporting that as an option. And she said, and they said, all we're trying to do is get them out of there safely. And, the things that Kara and I got is that, you're polluting the environment by flying that airplane and burning all the jet fuel. You should be feeding the hungry, housing the homeless with that money. And I'm thinking, you know what? There are enough programs out there for people as it is. Our government has like one of the largest giveaway programs on the planet. And how many programs are out there for dogs who are at risk? And especially in transportation, and that's something we found out, very, very little. So when Wondercide stepped up and said, we're going to help you pay for the transportation, I'm going, that's a very small crowd. It's just not many people do that actually for the foundations. Most of their money goes towards the shelters, and really it really should, especially the sending groups, because they're running on shoestrings. And Kara can describe them in a better way, because a lot of them are municipal shelters, and you walk in those places and it really is dreary and really is depressing. And I talk to people all the time, oh, I can't stand to go by those places, and it makes me so sad. I'm going, for every animal that's in there, there's a person responsible. All right. So you can be that person who can be part of the solution. More peas there. Did you catch that? So that's one thing that you can do. Just go by and volunteer. You go by and there are 4 or 5 dogs in a stall that's built for one animal. It really is depressing. So let's get them out of there. Come on. This is what Kara and I do. With the help of Brent and Jeff. And so, and now with the help of Cecilie and Wondercide. So that's where we are. Kara, what can you add to this, especially about the sending groups?
No, I think it's just important for everybody to know that everybody can make a bit of a difference no matter where you are. And, we're, as our organization, we're able to partner with so many different groups all over the country now. And that's really special. But, if you're located in the South or the North or wherever you're located, you can do, one of the biggest things you can do is reach out to your local animal shelter and see where you can help on the ground. And, as Peter said, be part of the solution. You can hopefully you can get into the animal shelters in your area and help walk, help volunteer. There's a lot of different ways to get involved. So really just reach out to your local animal shelter or us, and we're happy to help, introduce you to some of our partners. So Peter and I are always available, and we love connecting with our community and telling you where you can help out. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, we at Wondercide, Peter, you were kind of talking about helping different shelters and these different rescue centers. And that's been something for us where we will sponsor a kennel that, we make sure that whatever dog and cat passes through that kennel gets the medical care and everything that they need for that. And, with all the different, like you said, organizations you can help out with, when it comes to like dogs and cats and just pets in general, that's something that was really near and dear to us. And so that's why we were immediately like jumped up on board with you guys, because I personally had never heard of anything where, there was this organization that was transporting these dogs, a ton of dogs on a plane. And I had first heard about it in Jacksonville when I was living there. and I actually adopted my dog from the Animal Adoption Center, which I know you guys partner with. And that was always such a big thing for me. I wanted to make sure I got a dog at a place where they were taking care of their animals and were, you know, partnering with like-minded people. And I was always just so pleased to hear about what they were up to. And that's how I initially learned about you guys. So when our PR team came to us a couple months ago and kind of brought this idea to us, I was like, oh, 100% on board. I will be the first person to sign up to talk to Peter and the team because I want to hear everything about it. And one of the things that I really want to hear about is you mentioned that, you know, you started off with 20 pets or 20 dogs like on a flight. Can you tell us a little bit of if you remember, you know, how your first flight went, if there were any like hiccups, how many pets you had, and then flash forward to now, what are some of the different, you know, updates and things that you've made to make sure that these pets have a nice, safe flight to wherever their next destination is?
Sure. Well, there's the people that I started working with down in Merced, just Sharon and Daryl and Lucy, and they're just terrific. But there was early on there was a situation where I was in checking the weather. Now the 206 had this is not a very large cabin, so prices is at a premium. And Daryl flew in the military. He flew like the heavy metal stuff, the big stuff. So he knew how airplanes work. And so when I went in to check weather, he actually slid my seat all the way forward, stacked 3 crates up on the right seat, and then stacked the aircraft so the seat couldn't be moved back. And in the 206, that seat can be pushed right up to the instrument panel. So I was sitting there with my knees up to my chin, you know, and it was really the most uncomfortable. So what I learned is never leave Daryl alone loading the airplane. So and these crates are used over and over again. They break down, and 2 or 3 times a year we have an animal that'll break out. Now, depending on how many animals we're carrying on board, they may not be able to make their way forward because the aircraft is stacked full. And it's a real Tetris game because all these crates come in a lot of different sizes. I mean, I like small, medium, large. And I want to give a shout out to the groups down in El Paso and Kyla down there with the El Paso Animal Services, because they have it worked out to a science. They call each crate by their dimensions. I just sit back and I drink my coffee at 4 in the morning and when they come load, and I never have to touch anything. And they're in there, need a 14-inch crate, need a 27-inch crate. And I'm going, I love these people.
Which Kyla and her team figured out, which is really neat to share with new groups that we partner with, because it's really hard to know how many actually crates are going to fit because there's so many different sizes that we're accommodating on our flights. And one thing that Kyla and the El Paso team do is they actually like draw out a fake plane on outside of their animal shelter. They tape it out with blue tape, and the day before the flight, they get all the crates that they know the dogs need to safely travel in and stack them up, and they know exactly where they all can fit, so they can fit as many crates as possible. And
wow.
Yeah, not only that, but the flights from El Paso, we do stops typically in Salt Lake City and Sun Valley and then Troutdale. It's a long day for the pilot and for the dogs. So we don't want to mix them all up. But what I want to do is keep the dogs on the ground for as short as period as possible. 30 minutes is what I allow my pilots to offload the animals while we're taking on fuel and then get up in the air, because a lot of our flights during the summer can be pretty warm, and it gets very warm in the cabin of the aircraft, and want to keep those dogs comfortable. So we have to load these animals in reverse order. So the first dogs that are loaded will be the last dogs out. So the folks in El Paso do all that too. It's just amazing. They say, okay, these are the Troutdale dogs. They go in first, where we put them. And then the next dogs out, we're going to be Sun Valley, and the first dogs out are Salt Lake City. And so they need to be by the door. And so they are really into it. And our plan for them, and please don't tell them because it's a secret right now between Kara and me, is that we're going to fly for them twice a month starting in March. So that's going to give them at least 12 or 14 flights. So that they this what makes my job so much easier and so much more fun. And you have to keep it fun. Yeah, I have to keep reminding myself that my pilots are volunteer pilots. I mean, I can't use a cat of nine tails and tell them, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that. And once they're on the airplane, you know, they're the pilot in command, they're the captain. They're responsible for the aircraft and getting the animals from A to B to C to D safely. So we pack them in tightly so there's no movement of the crates. If there is going to be movement, we use bungee cords to tie them down.
Okay.
We restrict the altitude that we fly. We don't fly above 14,500 feet because the air gets a little thin. Now we have oxygen on board for the pilots, but we don't have them on board for the animals.
Yeah.
We like to have the animals NPO, medical for nothing by mouth, from the night before. They can go 12, 18 hours without food or water. But the puppies and kittens, we'll always put food and water in for them because their gastric emptying time is much shorter and they can dehydrate a lot quicker. Also, these are mammals, and you know, if you've ever been on a commercial flight and you've got somebody sitting next to you with their face in that white bag throwing up, you know that these things can happen. And the same thing happens to some of the dogs, and especially the cats. And so
Yeah.
that's it's no wonder where they get their phrase "scaredy cat," because once that engine starts, oh, do they start making noise and yeah. So I put them way in the back of the airplane if I can. So
That was actually going to be one of my questions. When you're on these trips, you know, with dogs and cats, are they like barking and meowing the whole time while you're flying?
the short answer is no.
Okay.
Because typically they're sea level animals. And
Okay.
once they get above 10,000 feet, the air is a little thin and they start getting a little sleepy.
Okay.
And, but then when we're descending through 10,000 feet, they start waking up again. And people will say, well, why do you fly so high? I mean, can't you just fly low? I said,
Yeah.
not if I want to fly through the mountains, because remember, we're flying over the Rocky Mountains, the Cascades, and the Sierra Madres. These are 13, 14,000 foot peaks that we have to get over. And it just doesn't make sense sometimes to fly around them, although we'll do that. So those are the things that we have to take into account. So plus the other thing is that we're flying an aircraft with a turbine engine, and we'll burn since weight and balance is so important in an aircraft like this, we measure everything in pounds and not necessarily gallons, although it burns about between 42 and 46 gallons an hour of jet fuel. But for every 1,000 feet we go higher, we burn 10 pounds of fuel less per hour. So when I take off and I go up 10,000 feet, I'm saving 100 pounds of fuel per hour, and at 6.7 pounds per gallon, you can do the math. And at $4.50 a gallon, you can see it's really saving a lot of money by going higher. The engine is much more efficient. So yes, they make a lot of noise. The more noise they make, the higher I fly. Just kidding. It's just so we typically fly between 12 and 13,000 feet. And the dogs, there's always seems to be one though, a little yapper. And it always seems to be in that little cat crate that the people put right behind my head in the cabin. And
Peter, one
So
thing that I've realized since, and I know we need actually, we'll be wrapping up here soon, and so hopefully we've been able to get to everybody's questions. But one thing I would like to note that's changed since the time I've come on board, which has been 4 years now, is the size of the dogs that we've been transporting really has seen a big shift, and that's good to note, because what's happening in a lot of the shelters that we're flying from is a lot of the small dogs are getting adopted, which is wonderful in their own community. But what's still left in the shelters are a lot of medium and large dogs. And one thing that is great about our aircraft, which we've obviously named the Big Dog, is that we can transport big dogs, literally. And sometimes those are the animals that are in most need or at risk at the shelters we work with. So, you know, we fly a variety of breeds now, from, you know, little Chihuahuas are still there, but not as abundant. But, you know, a lot of our dogs are the Labs and Pit Bulls and Pit Bull mixes and Shepherds and Huskies. And so it's just interesting to note that we're able to accommodate some of the larger dogs now.
yeah, that's exactly right.
That's
When
great.
Kara and I were first doing the math, my gosh, we're going to haul 200 animals per flight. And then it all morphed. We're doing the larger crates, and we don't overweight the aircraft. We bulk it out with the size of the crates. The dogs have to have enough room to turn around and be comfortable. Now, it's not like the Four Seasons huge crates for these animals. I mean, it's more like Motel 6. But they will take up a lot of room. So our dream of flying 200 animals per flight suddenly shrank back down to realism between 80 and 100 because of the larger dogs that we're now able to transport. And really, I'm a big dog kind of guy. So, I mean, that made me even happier about our mission. I'm done talking here, and I want people to float some questions out there, and anything's on the table. Go ahead and have at it.
Well, it looks like we had a question. I think this would be something I'm also interested to hear about, but someone wants to know, Carol would like to know if, in addition to financial donations, do you guys take other types of volunteers aside from, you know, people obviously who are trained pilots who want to help? Do you guys get people to help with loading the planes, helping with these shelters? What does that look like for you guys for those opportunities?
Yeah, the loading and offloading of the plane, the loading is really the key, because we don't want to leave no dog behind. The groups that we've worked with now for years understand just how many crates they can put in there. And so we don't need any really help with the loading. They come with the sending organization. The receiving group, we always ask for at least 4 people to come. It's part of our agreement that we have with them. And so we don't need any help loading, unloading. Volunteer pilots, I'm always looking for volunteer pilots. When I first floated that, I had every pilot who had a pilot's license reach out to us, but the insurance requirements are really very, very tight now. And so unless you have over 2,000 hours and you have some turbine time, there's no way that we can fit you in. And this is very different from when I first started with this aircraft 5 years ago. I had 0 turbine time, but they made allowances for that. They don't do that anymore. So it's a lot tougher. I've always thought the charity begins at home. If you want to volunteer, go by your local shelter. If you don't want to, if it breaks your heart, drop off a bag of dog food. If you want to donate to Dog Is My CoPilot, we're very, very responsible fiscally with our resources in making sure that it goes to saving animals. When you look at organizations, and I don't want to badmouth anybody, but I'm going to. Places like United Way or whatever, and you look at their 990s online, and that, you know, 60, 70% of all the money that you donate goes to administration and marketing. I mean, we're about 10%, and not even that most times. So we're a very lean organization. We only have 1 paid employee, and I'm sure that I'd get in trouble if I let anybody know what I pay her, because it's too little. And everybody else is volunteers. And
that's great.
It takes a lot of money to run the airplane, and So if you want to donate to that, that would be great. Thanks.
Well, that's awesome. I did want to just quickly mention for anyone just tuned in or tuned in late, for the Dog Is My CoPilot collaboration, we are donating proceeds from our sampler boxes from Wondercide.com up until, and we'll be able to fund that first flight in 2021 for Dog Is My CoPilot. So yeah, I mean, I had a list of questions and you answered all of them. So way to go. This is awesome.
Well, we appreciate your partnership. We're really grateful to be working together, and we can't wait to tell everybody about our first flight. Thanks to you guys.
Yeah, and I'm very much looking forward to it. We told our creative director whenever the flight does happen, we all like want to get in a car and drive to wherever it's happening and watch it, like actually watch it happen in person, because it sounds like such an amazing process that it would be so fun to be a part of. So thank you guys.
Most of our sending partners are now based in Texas. That's where it's kind of morphed to where the need was. And really, it's a function of education. Spay and neuter, adopt, don't shop. You know, this is something that I'm certain that everybody who's watching this program right now, it's like preaching to the choir. And the people who, this is my dog over there. The people who are not watching are the people that we need to reach out to. So tell me how to do that. So I can't see any of the questions on my screen. I don't know.
I can answer everybody that's out there that's asked a question. I've been trying to answer on the side here in the Q&A, and I've listed my email. It's my first name, Kara, at dogcopilot.org. If you want to reach out to me after we cut off here, and we're always happy to answer any follow-up questions. So I think we can wrap it up here, and we'll look forward to doing this again with everybody.
Great. Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, just the last thing I don't want to point out in this, there are 4 things that you guys can do. We've already covered one of them, and that is going by and volunteering your shelter. We just covered another one about donating. But really the most important is adopting an animal, going out and bringing one home, and bring 2. I have 3, actually. Kara has a couple. It's, for me, I guess it's an occupational hazard. But for every animal that you save 2, the one that you save and the one that takes its place. And if you don't want to commit to adopting an animal, foster one and get that animal ready for adoption. Now, a lot of these animals are already in these facilities because of issues. Now, Lord knows I have issues, but maybe they're runners, or they have separation anxiety, or they don't work, they're barkers, or they need leash training or voice commands. These are things that you can spend some time with a couple weeks with these animals and getting them ready and make them easier to adopt. So when the person comes in, they see that dog and they say, does this dog have any issues? They can say, not anymore. So that would be great. So thanks again, everybody. Thanks for watching Dog Is My CoPilot. Our partner, Cecilie with Wondercide, who's going to keep us wheels up, that we can easily fly 200 dogs or more with the money they're donating to us. Believe me, it's a very generous donation. And Kara, who does all the coordination and does all the computer work. I mean, honestly, when she said she needed to get out of town over the Thanksgiving holidays, we were talking before the program began. I can say, I've never seen you outside your computer room. I mean, it's just constantly in front of that screen. That's the room right there. You see it? So thank you, everybody. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving and a happy holiday season. Don't forget that the Tuesday after Thanksgiving is Giving Tuesday, and Dog Is My CoPilot could certainly use the help. All right. So thanks, everyone. So long.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.